Oh, God.
Oh, crash landing. Hey guys, Ari in the air here. I'm a professional pilot and paraglide dealer, and I make videos right here on YouTube helping you to paraglide better. So if that's something you're into, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. I can guarantee you won't regret it. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Ari in the air for a bunch of paragliding content and fun shit. Today, we're going to talk about flight deck, how I use instrumentation to fly further. Let's get right into it. See ya.
I'm paragliding! See ya!
Okay, so I have been flying cross country pretty adamantly for 3 years now, and my flight deck has changed over the years. I have tried a number of different things. I've tried an Udi, I've tried fly sky high, I've flown a long way actually with no instrument other than just a little beeper, beep beep. So I've got some opinions as to what I think works for me. That's what my flight deck looks like. I've got a spot, a phone, an XE tracer, and a speaker. Each one of these has important implications. To begin, I think that anyone who's flying a paraglider should have a spot or an inReach, a GPS unit that can send an SOS signal in case you are injured. What's important about having this is that it is connected to satellites, and so you don't need a cell phone signal, and it can connect you to first responder emergency services with the push of one button. A couple of things about this. One is that I use mine with David Wheeler's site, xcfine.paraglide.us. It costs about $20 a year to have David take your information from the Spot or Garmin and upload it onto the website, which basically puts your location on a map with all the other pilots in your region. And so it's really easy for retrieves and for your buddies who are home on a cross-country day to watch you fly and track your progress. It's kind of a fun thing to do in the community. And that is above and beyond just the basic safety of having a satellite-based emergency SOS button. When you have this thing, it's really important that you put it somewhere that you can reach it if you crash. It needs to be on your flight deck, it needs to be on your chest strap, or it needs to be somewhere where you don't have to dig it out and that you can push it if you're injured. I have one friend who crashed in Mexico and he couldn't move from his harness. He was crashed, he was on his side, and he couldn't move from his harness, but luckily he had it on his flight deck and was able to call SOS. There is a difference between a spot and an inReach, and as time goes on, pilots are learning that the inReach is the best option. The spot is cheap. I got this for $50 and it runs for about $100 a year for the satellite service. This unit does not give you altitude on the track log. So when your buddies are watching you at home, every 10 minutes, your location is uploaded, but your altitude is not. Whereas the inReach, it uploads your altitude so your buddies can know. If you're at 10,000 feet, obviously you've got a long ways to go. But if you're 5 feet off the ground, then they know that you're probably going to land soon. So the inReach is about $250 and about $100 a year to operate. This is about $50 and $100 a year to operate. But the inReach is better. You can send and receive text messages through the satellite signal, which is what my friend in Mexico did when he had crashed, and that proved to be gold as far as communicating with the emergency services so they could find him, as well as communicating with his sister, who was the emergency contact on his profile, because basically when you push the SOS button, the first thing they do before they call 911 is they call your emergency contact and they say, hey, Ari has sent an SOS signal and my emergency contact says, yes, he is in Mexico on a paragliding trip. If he pushed the button, it is serious, right? So having your information up to date and having a emergency contact who is has knowledge that you made them your emergency contact. You don't want to just put someone and never tell them. You want people on your emergency contact to be aware when and where you're flying. So it might be better for your emergency contact to have one of your flying buddies listed rather than your father or your spouse who knows a bit more detail about the things that go on when you launch your damn paraglider. All right? So moving on from the Spot is my cell phone, which as you can see right now is running my microphone. And I'll tell you why I use a cell phone. A cell phone is, as opposed to an UDI, as opposed to a Flymaster, as opposed to a flight-specific computer, it's because the phone is the best touchscreen that money can buy. It is Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phone. It is so many different things all in one. It is a camera. It does everything. And when you connect it with something like this, the XC Tracer, this is the XC Tracer 2 Mini GPS. These two things together are essentially a really high-level hardware that will continue to improve as the software gets updated year after year, right? So as Fly Sky High improves, as these things improve, the hardware is already there. I don't need to buy another flight computer. So like an UDI, the best one is like $900. But man, like you have a little stylus. It like runs on Windows 95. I'm a millennial, man. That's like so outdated. I don't feel like I can use that. Also, when you go to a competition, everyone who uses a flight-specific computer has to sit there and enter the waypoints and enter the task, and it's super annoying, and it takes forever, and you have to triple check it. Whereas at a comp with Fly Sky High, it's literally a QR code. You can just scan it and you pass it around. Everyone who uses a cell phone doesn't have to hang out around the task board and sit there for 20 minutes and fill it in. We go dink around, and then when one person does it, we kind of look it over, make sure it's right, and then we just QR code it, just uploads it, boop, we're there, okay? It's so much better. As far as for the XC Tracer, this thing is absolutely incredible. I think it's developed by some French dude who works for their French NASA, and it basically has really sensitive barometers and accelerometers inside of it. The front of it is a solar panel, so you never have to charge it, and it has a couple of different audible settings, and all of the sensitivities, the tones, the frequencies, the sync alarms, all of this is all customizable. You just plug it into your computer and it has a really basic text file that you can edit and change any number of things. This thing is so incredibly sensitive that when you set it to its max sensitivity, it literally beeps like at a half of an inch and without any lag. It really is next level. It's like the most sensitive Vario on the market. It is what most ex-Alps pilots are using, and with these two things together, this is an incredibly powerful flight computer. The phone does so many different things, including getting you a ride, including texting your girlfriend, including taking pictures, as well as Fly Sky High is an incredibly dynamic application, and there are others, Fly Me, and for Android it's XC Track. Yeah, XC Track. And there's other ones, and the phones people just keep coming out with new programs and updating the old ones, and so things are just continuing to improve, and this is all the hardware that I know that I'm going to need for the next couple of years at least. I'm not going to have to buy a new flight computer every time Flymaster comes out with the newest, greatest deal. We're going to talk about Fly Sky High and how I set it up specifically in just a minute, but first, this is my JBL speaker. This thing is just absolutely awesome. It is comfort in the sky. I love listening to music while I paraglide. I have created about 200 hours of playlists from all genres of music they are on my SoundCloud account that is airing the air on SoundCloud. So if you would like, I have Aries Flying Selects, which is a playlist that has really good mellow but energetic electronic music that will keep you flying for hours and hours and hours. So check that out. I'll put a link in the description below to my SoundCloud account. There is tons of different music. You should check it out. And I just have this thing Bluetooth to my phone, and it just plays all day. I modify the volume so that I can hear the Vario and I can hear the music, and the music is kind of background, and it just kind of chills me out a little bit when I need it to chill me out, and it brings me up when I'm needing a little bit of energy. So it's super helpful and it's really fun, right? Another thing that I'll mention is that I fly with a power bank. This one is 10,000 milliamps and will charge my phone like 10 times and charge my speaker. And obviously it has two little plugins here, and I can plug in both things at the same time. On my flight deck, as I fly, this thing sticks to the Velcro pad that's on the flight deck of the harness, which has a pocket where the battery goes. If your harness doesn't have a pocket, like a lightweight harness like an Osium or something, I typically will put this in the chest pocket of my coat, and so that it's easily accessible because it does have a button that turns it on and off so that I can have it plugged in, ready to go, and it's not charging, and when the phone gets a low charge, I push the button to start charging. This thing is invaluable because when you land and your phone is dead because you flew all day, you really just like want to have your phone to call your friends and to let them know you're all right and to get a ride, right? So power banks, super helpful for that. I figure it's worth noting that as we talk about my flight deck, that we talk about the rest of the harness, how I set it up to fly 100 miles. And as I tell people in cross-country paragliding, if you want to fly far, the thing that you have to curate is comfort. Comfort in managing the glider so that huge thermal activity doesn't freak you out with the pitch and the roll and the yaw and the collapse, the speed bar, and all of this different stuff. Comfort with the glider, comfort with conditions, that you're familiar with what a thermal feels like and what a cloud looks like and what a street looks like and what wind looks like and all these different things, as well as that you have creature comforts in your harness, that your harness fits you properly, is adjusted properly, that the speed bar is adjusted properly, that you have adequate food, water, sunscreen, eyewear, footwear, a warm enough coat that's not too warm, adequate, like the right pants that don't make you too hot, but you also don't get too cold when you're super high. So all these things take a little bit of time to develop your own system. Everyone's system is a little bit different. But in general, I love to fly with a condom catheter every time. This is something that, as people start to fly cross-country, think they can get around. Men, obviously, God bless our external genitalia, and ladies, I'm sorry you have to wear a diaper, but it seems like that's your only option. Sorry, hashtag the patriarchy. But a condom catheter is just a godsend. Like, you can't fly around holding your pee all day. That is not comfort. And you also can't fly around thirsty all day because you don't want to pee. So I fly with 3 liters of water, if not more, especially when I'm flying cross country, because you don't know where you're going to land, if you're going to have to walk miles and miles. So it's important that you have enough water to walk out of somewhere that you could possibly land. So for me, I fly with 3 liters of water. I typically will put my Camelback in the ballast compartment under my seat board, which keeps my swing weight, my center of gravity really low, which is super helpful when you're flying. If you put it in the back Camelback pocket, when you push a lot of speed bar and you push really far and you extend your back, it can make your harness tilt up at a really strange angle. And so if you don't have a ballast pocket, it has to go in the Camelback pocket. But if you have both, I highly recommend putting your water as low in your harness as you can. Under the seat board is best. It makes the harness so stable. It's like, it is even better than flying without it. So I fly with a 3 liter Camelback. that is accessible to me all the time. On a typical 4-hour flight, I will drink damn near all of that water. I'll pee probably 5 times. So the Camelback and the Condom catheter are absolutely essential to flying long cross-country flights. You have to be able to drink. You have to be able to pee. You also have to be able to eat. So Gavin McClurg, he recommends that you eat on the hour, and he says he sets his watch to remind him. He drinks water at the top of every climb. So these are just kind of things you got to keep your body going, because this game, although it's not physically that demanding, there are some demands, but it is so mentally demanding that you really have to keep your systems going so that your mental acuity stays up with the demands of a cross-country paragliding flight, which we know can be very, very heavy, and it comes down to your safety. If you're totally dehydrated and starving by the time you're trying to land in late afternoon in the desert, amidst dust devils and thermals and wind, it's like you're really asking for it. So you got to be on top of it. You got to eat, drink, pee, be comfortable, have your harness adjusted properly, all this stuff, and you got to have your flight deck totally dialed. So to get into the last part here, I will show you how I have my XC or my Fly Sky High set up. And essentially I use 2 different screens. One is a climbing screen and one is a gliding screen. Basically on the climbing screen, we have the top left is the thermal assist. This is zoomed into 0.2 kilometers, and this will draw a line that is color-coded to lift and sink, and it will show you where your thermal is. It will draw circles around this to give you the best estimate as to where the thermal core is. Obviously on the right we have lift, ground speed, wind force, and altitude. On the bottom I have distance from takeoff, glide ratio, and in the bottom right I have this graph that is so helpful. The graph automatically scales, and that will show you if you're actually going up, if you're humping zeros, if you're in really light lift and you go beep beep beep, beep beep beep, and it'll actually show you if you're climbing or losing altitude. It scales automatically. Okay, in the middle you have the task map that if you have loaded tasks, it will show you the way to the next waypoint. But in general, it just is zoomed out to 20 kilometers, and it just gives you an overview of your flight. This app will automatically switch to this screen. This is the climbing screen. If you do one circle, 360, it will automatically switch to this map. If you wave your hand over the screen like that, or if you are flying in a straight line for more than like 8 seconds or something, it'll switch to this. I call this the gliding screen. This has, on the top left, it has this map that will load terrain, and it will show you how far you'll glide, likely at your current glide ratio, until you reach the ground. I have lift, ground speed, and altitude. Again, glide ratio and wind force. Those are just the applicable things that I like to see. Also, for competitions, people will load other things like distance to next waypoint, distance to goal, glide to goal, all of these different things. These are all super customizable. With just the touch of a finger, you can just hold down on it and you can customize any of these things, add and subtract different little widgets. Anyway, on this gliding screen is the most zoomed out map. This is like 40 and 60 kilometers. You can adjust that with the tap or a single push to zoom out and a double tap to zoom in. Super simple. It works great. This app records its own IGC file so that you can turn it in at a competition. The XC Tracer also records its own IGC file so that you have redundancy in competitions. But that's pretty much how I run that. So that's pretty much my flight deck. That's how I stay comfortable when I'm flying long cross countries, and I hope that helps you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. Whatever questions you have, put them in the comments below. Add to the conversation. This channel is becoming a huge space for community and for pilots to learn and grow and ask questions and connect with others. So ask questions, support the pilots who are in this community, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. If you like this show, support it by sharing it. You can also donate to the show at paypal.me/airyintheair. I really appreciate all the donations that are coming in. I hope this helps. If you need gear, please let me know. Email me at airyintheair@gmail.com. I started dealing Flow and Phi gliders, really exciting new brands that I'm starting to deal. So I got the Flow Fusion on the way. Test videos to follow. Stay tuned. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next episode.